Hello everyone, welcome back to O'Colly TV. I'm Alex Dusky, here again with Grayson Singleton and Jace Andrews. As you can see, it's still a little windy, but it's sunnier, warmer 7 hours later, and the Cowboys have another win in the record book, ending their 2021 season. The number 9 Cowboys defeated the number 5 Notre Dame Fighting Irish. The final score was 37-35, and most notably in this game, the Cowboys overcame a 21-point deficit, which not only is the biggest comeback in Oklahoma State history, but it is also the biggest comeback in Fiesta Bowl history. Grayson, you were down on the field. Just tell me what the experience was like down there.
It was, if you're a young journalist, that is something you dream of. You know, just going out and taking some footage, live tweeting, just getting to see the professional environment in which you work. We had a run-in with an ESPN camera. I got to have a conversation with somebody who sells partnerships for the bowl game. So it was just a lot of fun. Good to be in that environment, and I look forward to doing this a lot more throughout the rest of my life.
Now, Jace, you and I were up in the press box. I know you've had some experience in press boxes before, but not necessarily at an NFL stadium covering the Oklahoma State Cowboys. What were your thoughts inside that press box?
Well, I think it's a lot different when you get inside an NFL stadium because the press box becomes a lot larger, just like the field. But I think the coolest thing was you were there surrounded by every other journalist. You were there surrounded by people who are doing the exact same thing that you're dreaming of doing. I think that's one of the coolest things is just the viewpoint that you get from that is unbeatable. I mean, you get to see some things that people will never get to notice. And I think that's the best part about the press box is you get to see those little details that make a difference.
So if you watched this morning's show, you can tell that, we did predict a lot of things correctly, but we also predicted a lot of things incorrectly, most notably the score. Now, granted, there weren't really mistakes by either team, honestly, until the fourth quarter. Grayson, what did you like that you saw from both teams' offenses?
Well, you hit it on the head. That fourth quarter was pretty ugly. It was pretty mistake-ridden. But let's start with Notre Dame's offense in the first half. They won the point of attack. Marcus Freeman said that they needed to out-physical Oklahoma State, and they did just that. Their receivers were getting separation. And Jack Cohen, he played that magnificent first half in which he threw for 378 yards in the first 2 quarters.
It is important to note that he broke 2 Fiesta Bowl records today. First for most passing yards in a Fiesta Bowl and most total offensive yards.
Yeah, and then conversely for Oklahoma State, they really didn't even get going until that third quarter where they scored 17 points in that 15-minute frame. And what they did there was they were able to use misdirection and pre-snap motions to get receivers free of coverage. And then when they couldn't get free of coverage, they were allowing Spencer Sanders just put the ball where your guys can get it. Notre Dame's defense wore down. They could not out-physical Oklahoma State for the entire game. The running game got going, and that about salted it away for the Cowboys.
Kind of getting into the defense, Jace, all this week we've talked about how the 2 defensive coordinator positions from both teams were vacant before this bowl game. How do you think that it ultimately worked out for Oklahoma State having 3 defensive play callers in today's game?
Well, I think you go back to what we said. We had a lot of things right and a lot of things wrong, but the one thing we did have right was the first half was not going to be the best, and I think that showed. 28 points for Notre Dame, and Jack Cohen really lit up the ball on that side.
It was also the most points that OSU had led up in a half.
Exactly. I mean, that first half was just not the best one for Oklahoma State, but what did they do? They met in the locker room, they spoke calmly, and they fixed it. 7 points allowed, and that last touchdown came in the final 2 minutes of the game. So ultimately, I think the biggest thing is this defense has a lot to build on for the next season, but if you had to pick a game for this defense to go out, it would be this because of the way they played in that third quarter, because the third quarter had just been so treacherous for OSU this year. And this year, this game, they won the third quarter, and they won the game because of that third quarter.
Now, looking specifically at some seniors on this team, we want to start off with Tay Martin. He's a receiver. He dropped 2 crucial passes that could have converted on third down, and one even almost got us to the goal line, but unfortunately, he could not control the ball on the landing. However, he did have 3 total touchdowns in this game, tying the Fiesta Bowl for most touchdowns by a single player. What did you like from Tay, and how do you think he recovered from those 2 misses?
Well, recovering from the drops, great hands always start with great feet. And what he wasn't doing during those first couple of drops is that his feet were all over the place. They were tangled up and they were together. Throughout the second half, you saw a wider base. He was stationary when he caught the ball. I'm going to go back to the one on the far sideline where he came back to the ball on a fade route, perfectly placed by Spencer Sanders, but he stopped his feet, was able to get his hands on the ball, and was not letting the ball get to his body. That was key for the turnaround, and that is very fundamental wide receiver play, and it played paid huge dividends for Tay Martin and the Oklahoma State offense in the second half.
Now, adding on to the offense, we want to talk about junior quarterback Spencer Sanders, who, while we haven't had a chance to see the final stats from today's game, had an outstanding game. And we've talked about all week how, he had a really tough game in that Big 12 championship against Baylor. Jace, how do you think he bounced back from it? And give me a grade. What grade would you give him today?
A+++++++++, because this man had his game of the year, and probably, I'm going to say, his game of his career. And I know that's probably a lot considering all the offensive stats he's put up, but when you can control the ball the way he did and make sure you're a game manager the way he did in this game, I mean, he was a couple yards short of 500 total yards with over 100 on the ground. He just played exactly the Spencer Sanders that we've been looking for the entire year, and honestly his entire career. And I'm going to give some credit to Casey Dunn, because although the play calling this year has kind of been, up and down on how people react to it, he called a very, very, very good game in the Fiesta Bowl. And it's always a great time when you call your best game and the last game. And I think the best thing about it, and I'm going to bring it up, I know it stinks, but the 4th and 1, what did he do? He let Spencer take it, and they got it. And ultimately, that was a big, big, big play. As if that's not happening, the Notre Dame offense gets the ball at the 40-yard line. I mean, I know defense is probably stopping them, but that's just such a big play. And I think the play calling and Spencer's play management was just perfect today.
All right, well, that's all we have for you guys from the Fiesta Bowl. Thank you so much for following along with us all week. We really hope that you have enjoyed seeing all of our content. We sure have enjoyed being out here in sunny Arizona. That's all we have for Cowboy football this season. They end the season at 12-2, like we said, tied the school record for most wins with 12 wins. But from all of us here at O'Colly TV, thank you so much for tuning in all season for football recaps. I'm Alex Tusky with Grayson Singleton and Jace Andrews. And for the last time this football season, go Pokes!